Hello everyone, Dingo Daz, and thank you for clicking on this video if you want to listen to my voice acting attempts. This story was created as an introductory story to two new characters, original characters, for myself after listening to Shiny Teeth and Me by Chip Skylark from Fairly Odd Parents. It was a trap remix, and I'll put the link in the description of the video or page. So, very NSFW, by the way. Yeah, I gotta say that. NSFW. Not safe for work? Yeah. Okay. I'll cut my stupid self from the friggin' video and let you enjoy the audiobook. Thank you for listening.
An anthropomorphic bulldog and an anthropomorphic cane corso stand over an anthropomorphic American pit bull who seems to be knocked out. All three have a little bit more animal about their physiology. How are we going to get information out of him now that he's knocked out, Marco? Says the anthropomorphic bulldog.
I bet the dentist could wake him up,
says the cane corso. Yeah, that's a great idea, Marco. Let's go get his fucking teeth cleaned. Why the fuck would we take him to the dentist? Says Diggs, throwing his hands up in irritation.
Diggs, the dentist I'm talking about doesn't help you keep your teeth,
says Marco with a smile and a wink. Oh, you cheeky yank. Go get the car. I'll wait here with Sleepyhead, says Diggs, causing Marco to run for the car. After a very paranoid-fueled drive, they arrive at a very nice and neat-looking dental facility with clean walls and not a single smudge on the windows. I'm going to fucking kill you, Marco, says Diggs with an irritated tone.
Diggs, he has an actual degree in dentistry and in orthodontics. Once he realized he was crazy, he started working for the mafia to get information,
says Marco before turning a corner going towards the back of the building. Whatever, Marco. Let's just get this over with, says Diggs before Marco parks the car close to a steel door that has no handle or knob to open it. He then shuts off the car and both get out. Marco then walks up to the door before knocking on the top right corner. He then knocks on the bottom left corner, and lastly, he knocks on the top left corner. Diggs steps up to Marco's side with the knocked out American pit bull held up over his shoulders. After a moment, the door slowly opens with a screech to show a very tall, slender anthropomorphic female Clydesdale craning her head down to see Marco under the frame of the door. A few thin streaks of blood on its chin and cheeks glisten in the sun, though her soft baby purple eyes make it hard to look anywhere else besides straight into them. She wears black long-sleeve scrubs, and certain parts of her sleeves and midsection give a crimson hue when hit by the sun. Most likely blood from the last person she had to hold down or dispose of. She has black and white Sabino painted fur, and her long white hair is held up to keep it out of the way. What can I do for you, Marco? Says the Clydesdale with not too heavy of a Scottish accent. Her soft, patient voice is like honey to the ears.
Hey, Arabell, I was wondering if we could get an emergency walk-in,
says Marco with a nervous smile. We're very busy today, so it'll have to be double, Marco, says Arabell with a somewhat apologetic tone.
Well, thankfully there's a lot of money backing this job,
says Marco with a smile. Looks like we just had an opening then, says Arabell, making Marco chuckle. Arabell then opens the door all the way before stepping outside and out of the way of Diggs. Thank you, ma'am, says Diggs as he walks past into the building. Diggs and Marco walk into a very clean white hallway with a white door at the other end.
Looks like Ortho finally got you that bodysuit you wanted, hey, Arabell?
Says Marco as Arabell closes the door behind Diggs and herself.
Yeah? Now I don't have to clean the floors and walls after carrying the usual amount of blood-covered people to the garbage man,
says Arabell before the three walk down the hallway to the door at the other end. Diggs' ears pick up a cheery-sounding tune, getting louder as they walk closer to the door. We also got enough gold teeth to smelt down and make our wedding bands last week, says Arabell just before she walks past Diggs and Marco to open the door at the other end of the hallway. That's some Nazi-type stuff, says Diggs, made uncomfortable by her statement. Ortho and I did it because we have an unexplained obsession with teeth, not because we're greedy, Jewish-hating Nazis, says Arabell before opening the door for Diggs to carry the pit bull into the room. My Shiny Teeth and Me by Chip Skylark from Fairly Odd Parents fills the hallway. Diggs and Marco walk into the room and notice Ortho as he rips a tooth from someone's mouth, causing the being to scream, nearly matching the note of the woo sang in the song. "That was very close, sweetheart," says Arabell quite loudly so Ortho can hear her over the music. Ortho claps his hands and the music stops, allowing the victim's moans and cries of pain to fill the room. Marco and Diggs see the back of Ortho having painted dog fur before he turns around to face them. Ortho looks like a purebred African wild dog. More of a scrawny toned physique, not a muscular one. Comparing him to Arabell, it seems she would be the easy winner in a fight. He wears a blood-covered clear head-mounted face shield that protects his eyes, nose, face, and mouth from whatever blood may squirt at him as he rips out a tooth. He then wipes away the blood, revealing the fur around his muzzle makes sharp triangle cartoon-like teeth that stick with the emotion of his lips. The painted fur on his face is mostly black and white with small patches of brown, making his heterochromia, aurora blue, and green mixed eyes to pop. He doesn't have the same hygienic care as Arabell does. He wears a white shirt with the words, "Let me see your grill," in bold black letters across the front, mocking the song from Nelly. He has thick rubber gloves over his hands, a pair of shorts that seem longer than they should be, with a pair of skate shoes at the bottom. Blood soaks almost every millimeter of his outfit. It was close. I don't think he'll get the sound right because we have to hold their mouth open with a dental gag. They can't pucker their beautiful lips, says Ortho, taking off his face shield before noticing Marco and Diggs. Marco needs an emergency walk-in and he's willing to pay the price, says Arabell before taking off a long-sleeved top, revealing a pink sports bra and a toned but not too muscular midsection and arms. Well, let me just clear my schedule then, says Ortho before turning around and pushing the restraint table that holds down his first victim, only to have the wheels stall on teeth, causing the table to fall over. The table hits the ground with a crash, causing the man that's strapped to the table to scream and moan in pain. Lord only knows what he's actually going through. Ortho turns just as Arabell brings another restraint table in front of him. Ortho notices Arabell without her top scrubs on. Ortho stares at Arabell's physique as if hypnotized. He then takes in a deep breath through his nose before letting out a low mix between a groan and a grunt. Not now, sweetheart. We have customers, says Arabell, undoing the straps on the restraint table. Ortho breaks his stare and looks from Arabell's midsection to her face. She pays him no attention as she undoes the straps. You started it, says Ortho with a playful smile. And I'll finish it later, says Arabell as she undoes the last strap on the table. Ortho looks back to Diggs and Marco. Come on, put him on the table, says Ortho, waving his fingers for Marco and Diggs to bring Ortho's next victim to the table. Diggs drops the man on the table before Marco helps Ortho strap the man down. Once strapped down, Arabell holds the man's mouth open as Ortho walks over to his toolbox. Blood and teeth slosh and grind underneath his shoes. He then opens a drawer and takes out a very powerful-looking cordless Dremel with a small diamond drilling bit and a regular-sized hammer. He then walks over to the table before turning the Dremel on and turning the speed down all the way. Ortho then raises his hands with the hammer before firmly tapping a tooth in the pit bull's mouth. Arabell lets go of the pit bull and he jerks his muzzle away in pain. "What the fuck?" says the pit bull, looking around, groggy from being knocked out. Ortho raises the Dremel above the pit bull's head before turning the speed of the Dremel to its maximum. The pit bull's eyes grow wide with fear as the speed of the Dremel increases. Ortho slowly brings the Dremel down towards the pit bull, causing the scream from the pit bull to rise in volume as the Dremel gets closer. Suddenly, Ortho slams the palm of his hand against the bottom of the pit bull's jaw, closing his mouth. Ortho then quickly wraps his fingers around the pit bull's snout, trapping his mouth shut. The pit bull's eyes are white with fear, and his restraints rattle from his violent shaking. Marco is going to ask you a question, and if you answer it right the first time, I'll kill you quickly. If not, says Ortho before reaching down and scooping a handful of blood, teeth, and chunks of whatever meat tops off the hellish soup that has become the floor. I can still make you talk without teeth, says Ortho before opening his hand, letting the contents free to fall back on the floor. Now when I let go, I want to hear the answer to the following question, says Ortho before looking to Marco and Diggs, who stand with a mortified look. Marco shakes off his haze.
Where did the shipment of counterfeit bills go, John?
Says Marco before Ortho releases John's mouth. Marco, I swear, I don't know who took the money, and I don't know where the bills went. Marco, I would tell you, I swear. Please, Marco, I know who this guy is. Please don't let him do anything to me, Marco, says John, stumbling over his words in fear as tears fill his eyes.
I'm sorry, John. I can't let you walk away from this one,
says Marco with a sorrow-filled tone. John goes to scream something, but Ortho slams his hand into John's mouth, trapping it shut again. From this point on, the only thing I want to hear from you is the answer to Marco's question, or your saliva and blood-choked screams as I pull the teeth from your skull. If I heard you scream or beg, I can always pull your teeth using sewing needles, says Ortho, letting go of John's mouth. John does nothing. He just sits and shakes, tears running from his eyes. Ortho then walks over to his other victim and looks him in the eyes. Same goes for you, Louis, says Ortho before removing the dental gag from his victim's mouth. Louis moans with a shaking jaw in relief as the dental gag collapses. Ortho removes the gag from Louis's mouth before walking back over to John, flinging the blood from the gag. Arabell offers a hand and Ortho hands her the gag. She rinses off all the blood from the gag with 99% isopropyl alcohol. She then dries off and cleans it with a rag. She then hands it back to Ortho. John, I suggest you open your mouth, or I'll have my lovely Clydesdale of a wife give you a death grip, and I can assure you your mouth won't stay closed for long.
John gives no other response besides a glare of hatred towards Ortho. Arabell then wraps her right arm around John's head, putting the top of his head in the pit of her elbow. Oh God, I hate seeing this, says Marco, looking away. Arabell then grabs her right fist with her left hand and squeezes John's head like a nutcracker. Arabell's muscles strain as she slowly exhales. After a few seconds, John's left eye starts to flicker open and closed in rapid succession as his right eye stays open. The emotion drains from John's face as his mouth gapes open. Ortho then slides the gag into John's mouth before getting it set to the right adjustment. Arabell releases John's head, and after a moment the emotion and control comes back to John.
Out of everything here, that disturbs you the most,
says Diggs with a look of disbelief. Why? Is it over? Says Marco, turning around.
Good job, team,
shouts Ortho before slapping Arabell's ass with considerable amount of force. Arabell stops and turns her head to Ortho.
Maybe next time it'll actually hurt,
says Arabell with a seductive smile.
We have customers, love,
says Ortho, gesturing his head towards Diggs and Marco.
You started it.
says Arabell, handing a pair of pliers to Ortho. The sound of something wet and flaccid rings out in the room, and John screams.
So that's where that piece went,
says Arabell. Ortho looks down to see a hairy, blood-covered, steak-sized piece of flesh draped over John's face. A small part of it covers his nose and hangs in his mouth.
Oh my god, that's disgusting. Go ahead and scream, let it out,
says Ortho, lifting the slab of skin from John's face with a look of absolute disgust. Diggs and Marco start to dry heave before looking for a drain hole in the ground.